I recently started reading the My Hero Academia manga to see what happens after the portion of the story on Netflix, and when I saw the Chainsaw Man reference in chapter 259, it made me wonder if Denji could become a pro-hero. What I'm going to be asking in this video is not if Denji is strong enough to be a hero, since tons of weak heroes exist. What I'm asking is if Denji went through the battles Deku did, if he could survive long enough to gain his Provisional Hero license, since this is what allows people to use their quirks legally. This is less of a what-if story and more of a what-if Denji fought Deku's battles, sort of like Thundergoat does. So no need to worry about cringy fanfiction. We'll be sticking to the anime for both series, but we'll use the manga if there's a lack of information on something or to show it as a support for a certain argument. Let's go! In Season 1, Deku's first trial was surviving against a sludge villain that All Might defeated. Since Denji doesn't need to fight back to survive, we can go over his durability and regeneration. In the first season of Chainsaw Man, we see Denji can be stabbed, impaled, have his limbs torn off, and in the manga, be decapitated and exploded. Denji is able to regenerate as long as his heart isn't destroyed, and at an even faster rate if he can consume someone else's blood. Even just going off the anime, Denji is likely not going to die from being suffocated, so both encounters he would survive until All Might steps in. Interestingly, to me at least, I don't know if Denji would save Bakugo in character, since at this point Denji is mostly interested in gratifying instead of pure heroics, but that's a bit more subjective. I think it's worth saying in all likelihood Denji might just let Bakugo die. The next thing Denji has to do is pass the UA entrance exam, either by defeating the foe robot villains or rescuing Uraraka from the Zero Pointer. For either, we now have to go over Denji's strength, which in the anime we just know from scaling to the devils he fought, with the Bat Devil casually tearing apart buildings, the Leech Devil being the size of larger buildings, which Denji fought while tired and weakened, and the Eternity Devil, which was a hotel. Denji does get knocked around a bit in these fights, but a way to strengthen that he does scale to all this would be him defeating Katana Man, who could tear through the Fox Devil, where the Fox Devil bodied the Leech Devil and later in the manga has even better showings. While this is generous, as far as AP is concerned, we'll just say he's at large building level to simplify the hypothetical. With this in mind, he can definitely tear through the pointers and save Uraraka from the Zero Pointer, likely taking first place if he does both. In this instance, Denji might actually choose to save Uraraka in character due to her being a girl. Either way, Denji clears through the entrance exam. If Denji is large building level, he would excel at the exam well enough that Aizawa wouldn't try to kick him out. But if you think Denji is weaker than what I've stated, and that he would need to rely on regeneration to save Uraraka, then Aizawa might try to get rid of him in the same way as Deku. When it comes to raw strength, Denji can probably cut by on the test with things like lifting, throwing, or grip strength, but this is actually a good time to talk about Denji's speed. We know that Denji, when he first fought Katana Man, was blitzed by him to the point he couldn't see him move, which, going off a calc done by Seth and Naruto and Sasuke vs. Gon and Killua, and also used by Six and Toji vs. Rock Lee, this would make Katana Man roughly Mach 1 or so, with Denji after his training with Kishibe then blitzing Katana Man rationally being supersonic. With sites like Versus Wiki even saying he's massively hypersonic, calcing off the blood splatters after he realizes it cliche they had in the train fight. We'll be giving these to Denji since that's the best he has, and it's on the lower end of My Hero speed scaling anyways. Now, would that help him in Aizawa's elimination test? Probably, since characters like Bakugo and Ida who placed high in the test couldn't get to their full speeds in the limited test space, meaning Denji might place number 1 again and spite Aizawa. Either way, he can place higher than someone like Mineta who doesn't have any strength scaling at this point, and since Mineta passed, Denji would too. The next fight Deku had was combat training with Uraraka against Bakugo and Ida, and considering we never saw anyone pass the test by capturing the other team, we'll use securing the bomb or defeating the other combatants as the goal. So then, can Denji defeat Bakugo and Ida? We know how strong and fast Denji is as well as his abilities, so we need to go over My Hero now. Since we're scaling a very limited portion of My Hero Academia, we'll go with the simpler approach and say that Deku's 100% is different from All Might's, and just use whatever we see Deku do as the basis for characters that scale to him. We know when Deku uses 100%, he can basically outdo anyone that isn't All Might. In particular, he nearly tied with Todoroki using his strongest attack, who while holding back was on par with Bakugo that could use his Howitzer Impact, an attack stated to be even stronger than the Gauntlet Blast that could destroy large parts of a building and even stun nerfed All Might. However, based off the fight with Stain in Final Exam All Might, Deku using 5% seems to make him stronger and faster physically than Todoroki or Bakugo's bodies, meaning Class 1A scales below Deku full cowling when they aren't using ultimate moves or techniques, at least before they strengthen their quirks in the summer camp. We know from two heroes Deku's full cowling 5% is faster than gunfire, and even at 45% created shockwaves from fighting, which is literally a change in air pressure caused by explosions or objects moving faster than sound. Combined with Deku saying All Might never uses his maximum speed for movement because it would cause windstorms, this means Deku and the people that scale to 5% are already supersonic, and anyone who scales to 100% is massively hypersonic. This is actually pretty massive downplay for my hero, but we'll let it slide since this creates a more interesting discussion. In short, what we get is that Bakugo fights at roughly 5% output, and the Gauntlet Blast might scale close to 100% Deku in power, with 8% Deku being able to kick through walls and 100% Deku demolishing large buildings. This means that Denji and Bakugo are more relative in speed, and that Bakugo is probably stronger than Denji with Charge Blasts, and weaker without them. Considering Ida can't use Recipro yet in Denji's regeneration, you would probably win outright, especially if you consider that Uraraka might give Denji blood as support. Denji can obviously beat the random villains at USJ, but whether he could survive Shigaraki's quirk is kind of interesting. Still, Deku never had to actually fight him since Nomu protected Shigaraki and All Might protected Deku. That means the next few battles are the Sports Festival, none of which matter since these don't influence anything in Deku's plot except for character building, but I will go over them since this is for fun. He definitely has the stats to make it to the cavalry battle, and if Deku relying entirely on his team could pass, Denji would do even better. However, if Denji isn't warned about Shinso's quirk, he could actually lose to him since Denji is a very talkative person. We do know in the manga that Pochita is a different entity capable of interacting with other beings independent of Denji's will. So you could argue he might wake Denji up the way that the previous versions of One for All did for Deku, but going off the anime, I actually see Denji losing here. If he's out of character and he just blitzes and one-shots Shinso, he has to fight Todoroki, who at this point would only be using his ice. We do know he has large-scale ice attacks like with Sero, but it was implied during the battle with Deku that he can't do that giant attack again because of the toll placed on his body. If Denji doesn't save Todoroki, he wins decisively, but if Todoroki goes all out, it would probably come down to ring out like how it did in the show, meaning Denji would lose. Either way, it turns into Denji versus Ida and Bakugo, which we already went over. Stain was such a dynamic and fun fight because it was the test drive for full cowling, but considering Denji has always been that strong, this fight is kind of as simple as he would just outperform Deku during this fight and win with the help of Ida and Todoroki. Both of which get cut during the fight, which gives Denji regeneration support too. He handles Stain even easier than in canon. Now, because of how Deku gets Todoroki's help, Denji might not think to send out his location, but Denji's tactical mind is actually very sharp, noted during his training with Kishibe. Considering Denji fights in a reckless manner, he would probably need Todoroki's help if he gets paralyzed. Considering Denji fights in a reckless manner, he would probably need Todoroki's help if he gets paralyzed, but we don't know what blood type he has. But either way, he should actually do better than Deku, so I don't think it should matter that much. In the final exams, he would similarly get bodied by All Might, but unlike Deku, whose back got blown out by All Might, he would heal, meaning they passed the exam with Denji making it to the gate alone. However, I don't know if Denji would change Bakugo the same way mid-exam Deku did, which means they might fail. But since they both ended up at camp anyways, I'm willing to say this is probably a dub for Denji, but that it doesn't matter either way. Now it's time for the first real roadblock. I think if we're being honest, the battle with Muscular could go either way. If we're generous to Denji in saying he's almost as strong as 100% One for All, that doesn't help. Muscular point blank tanked a 100% smash. But they might be more relative in speed considering Muscular complemented 5% Deku on speed and lost the battle of speed against 45% Deku. What this battle comes down to is whether Muscular has more endurance than Denji, since we know repeated damage to his muscles weakens his quirk, as shown with Shindo, and because Muscular explicitly states he was holding back while he tanked that punch, to which Deku confirms that he's completely different than before, and only managed to defeat thanks to Muscular letting his guard down and going past his limits at the same time. If Denji can surpass his limits in the way Deku can, then he can win, but we don't really see that from Denji in Chainsaw Man anime yet, so I'm only going to say this is a draw and that it could go either way. But considering hysterical strength is a real phenomena, I lean more towards Denji if you think he has heroism in him to save Koda, which is arguable as far as just the anime is concerned. However, he would likely help more against the battles after with his regeneration, and might even be able to save Bakugo and Tokoyami. Not that it changes the overall plot much. Deku doesn't fight in Kamino Ward, and Denji has the strength to launch them as in the original story. This just leaves the actual Provisional Hero License exam itself. Jesus, that's a mouthful. If Class 1A passes the Battle Royale, Denji does too, which just leaves the rescue operation and battle with Gangorka. Like I've been saying, Denji does better than Deku in the fighting portion, but whether he would pass the exam itself is actually very unlikely, considering it comes down to personality and rescue capacity. We see when it came to interacting with civilians during the battle with the Bat Devil, he was willing to throw a car with a person in it at the devil and told the injured woman to get her ass moving. Very similar to Bakugo's interaction with the low priority rescue actors. So unless you take out Denji's character, he would probably help push Gangorka but fail the actual exam. But he could of course take the remedial courses with the other failures and get his license in time for chapter 259. I do personally think since Denji is mostly just ignorant, courses like these would work in turning Denji into a real hero, since he seems to be a genuinely kind person at heart, despite his upbringing, or shallow statements. So, could Denji become a pro hero? Sure, but could Denji and Deku's situation make it to the Provisional Hero License exam and pass or do well enough to be offered remedial courses? Nope, not really probably. All of what I've gone over is a combination of the highest argument possible for anime Denji and the worst arguments for anime My Hero Academia. If we go hard in the paint, you can scale Deku to All Might and actually be as generous to All Might as we were to Denji. Denji gets blitzed in every battle and doesn't touch anyone stronger than the 5-8% scaling remotely. So realistically, Stain or Muscular are going to kill him before he makes it to the exam, since Denji's heart can still be destroyed. But this was fun to go over for me anyways. Bye! Shut the fuck up!